Hey, we should be live, guys. Oh, I didn't turn my lights on. What am I doing? This is the best intro I've ever done on my channel, obviously. Alright. Hello, guys. This is What About Nintendo, and today I am joined by Andres Restart and possibly Lil Will the Deity. We're not sure exactly where he is. He may be dead. This is kind of a running theme at this point. I'm not sure what's happening, but I need to close that up.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he's trying out to be the next Robin.
Yeah, probably. He's over there hanging out with Batman, being a bad guy.
He is currently working under Batman right now.
Which villain do you think he's taken out? You know, Penguin?
I have no idea.
Okay. He doesn't.
I mean, if he's caught by a Joker, I don't think he'll make it to the podcast.
Nah, dude's brutal.
If it's Penguin, I think it'll be good. If it's Scarface, there's a 50-50 chance. So, you know.
Exactly. Well, hello, Pops Player. Hello, Erushan. Hello, Pops Player says he can replace him if he doesn't come. Well, I think it's a little too late for that, Pops, but maybe next time. He said nothing. Let me know how the audio is, guys. If you can hear everyone good, if you can hear Andres good, if you can hear the music good, everything like that. I can try to change that on the fly, so don't worry at all. It's not a nuisance. If something's wrong, just let me know. I can try to fix it. But anyways, guys, as I said earlier, we're here to talk about our ideas of how a Zelda, Legend of Zelda MMO may work, because I mean, I don't know when we got this idea. Like, we've been planning to do this for a while, just a little behind the scenes, because I had this idea. Like, I was playing Zelda Breath of the Wild. I was like, what if this was an MMO? Like, this could be cool. So we got this idea, and now here we are for this discussion. So I have some points that I'd like to hit, but this is kind of a free-flowing discussion here. So Andres, you can just start off with, I guess, your thoughts on, you know, what you think you know, if a Zelda MMO would actually be good and stuff like that.
Okay, well, I think a Zelda MMO
would be.
Sure, yeah. A Zelda MMO would definitely be better than a Zelda anime. That much I would be pretty confident with. Here's the thing,
I don't know, Zelda anime would be really cool.
Here's the thing. Probably not. Maybe, but
for another discussion.
If I had to place my money, I'd place it on a Zelda MMO being better. So, I think the first thing we should distinguish is MMOs generally have like a customizable character, like it's, you know, some sort of alias that you can customize to your will, male or female, many different species. So if it was a Zelda MMO, I think we would need to distinguish it between the Zelda MMO as opposed to an actual standard Legend of Zelda game. Like I don't feel like an MMO would replace it. You know, it would become a separate entity. So it wouldn't necessarily star as Link. There may be a character that's, you know, kind of like Link, but you could change the skin color, the hair design, the gender, and all the different races. So actually, then at that point, it doesn't look like Link at all, right? But there'll probably be options to look kind of like Link, you know, with the tunic and stuff. But basically, you know, I think the Zelda MMO will be branded entirely different as like a spin-off, and you have the option to become any sort of character within the Zelda universe. Like, I actually have a little bit of a list here, you guys. If you have any other ideas, you know, shoot. But I think Goron, Zora, Rito, Gerudo, a Hylian, a Sheikah, a Yiga, a Dark Nut, or a Bokoblin. So, like, in Wind Waker, the Dark Nuts, when you took off their armor, they were just basically, you know, they were kind of dog-like, actually, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they are.
So I'm not sure if that's a separate species from the Bokoblins, right? The pig species. So maybe there could be like a dog species and a pig species. So, you know, we have quite a few species here. I would consider Minish, but the Minish are so small.
They're so tiny.
Like, it would be better just to have them as like NPCs that can maybe interact with you in different ways, but not actually as like an other species, because they're too small.
Yeah, I mean, I have a whole list here, and like, you know, I went kind of full ham on this thing. I was just like, you know, I'm going through, I'm just like, you know, which one would have the most health, which one would be resistant to such and such. So I got a whole list here, but I mean, I don't actually have as many as you. I think they would kind of, at least, you know, I mean, this would be their first MMO, so I think they would kind of go a little bit, you know, they wouldn't go all out for this one. So I was just thinking, like, Hylian, obviously, you'd have to be that. I don't think you'd be Link or anything like that, but, you know, Hylian would be good. Zora, Gerudo, Goron, Rito, and Sheikah. Those were, like, my main thing. Maybe they would add some more, like, you know, some DLC or something. You know, like, MMOs usually have some pretty hardcore DLC and like expansions and stuff, so I think they would go. But I think, like, you know, for a starter pack or whatever, however they do the MMOs these days, I think those would be, like, you know, the main, you know, what is that, 6 characters there. So
Well, what are the 6 characters? So, Goron, Zora, Rito, Hylian. That's 4. What other?
Sheikah and Gerudo. Right? It's Hylian, Zora, Gerudo, Goron, Rito, and Sheikah. Pretty much the main species from Breath of the Wild.
Actually, I wrote down a list, and those are the first 6 that came to mind. So, okay, yeah. I see what you're saying.
Those are kind of the more popular, especially with, Breath of the Wild. Kind of having those as the mainstays there.
Yeah, I mean, considering that each character would be super customizable, wouldn't just be the species. Like, they would be very variant to skin tone and hair. And then, like we saw with Breath of the Wild, like, you can customize yourself quite a bit, and that was just the Link, right? And I imagine that if for an MMO, they would focus on the customization, so it'd be way more armor. And kind of like Splatoon, how they have regular updates with more and more content, this MMO would have regular updates with more and more content.
Do you think they would do mostly free stuff, or are you thinking maybe some like paid expansion, or both? Because I'm thinking they might be both.
I think it would be both too.
I think maybe for like the first 6 months to a year, they might do some free stuff, and then, kind of like Splatoon with the Octo expansion, they would then, start making the expansions.
Yeah, well, I think it would be very similar, actually. Yeah, there would be mostly free content on weekly or bi-weekly or, monthly updates, and then every maybe year or so, they'll have an expansion to add to the game.
So since we started on, character classes, I guess I'll go over some of my ideas just one by one of the 6 character classes that I think will be in the game, and you can kind of give your thoughts on these. But as for the Hylian, I think it's going to kind of be like, the all-around character, kind of, like, it can do pretty much everything, but it's not amazing. Hylians aren't really amazing at any one thing. I also had this kind of idea that different classes would have, like, special magic they can use. But I think the Hylian would probably be able to use like all kinds of magic, and of course Hylian's all right on horses, and pretty much most of the other characters cannot. So I think that would be pretty unique to them. That would be kind of their way of getting around. I also made up a different way of getting around for pretty much every character, excelling in different fields. So what are you thinking about that? I think the Hylian kind of makes sense to be just the all-around starter character.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Hylian would be like the default character, the default style. They would be the most well-rounded in terms of stats, right? But yeah, they could still have some certain things that are just for them, like riding horses. I'm not sure if mounts should be limited to just the Hylians.
Have a lot of different. There's a lot of different mounts that are available, so they all have some form of transportation, whether that be mounts or using their own special abilities. So this is not. Traveling around the world fast is not limited to the Hylians in any way. It's just the way they do it is kind of limited to them, if that makes sense.
Okay. I think it'd be really cool if, like, they did it in a way where it isn't so much that if you only have one species, you can only go to certain places, but, like, for example, the Rito can soar, right? Let's say the Rito can actually soar. So maybe they're not they probably should be pretty fast, but, like, they can soar. They can soar a lot, and that would give them an incredible ability to go across, expanses like cliffs and stuff. But that doesn't mean the other characters wouldn't be able to do it. Like a Hylian could eventually maybe get a paraglider to have something similar to the Rito. But from the beginning, the Rito had that advantage, but the Rito don't have the advantage of being able to ride a horse. Maybe eventually they found their own mount, right? But the Hylians would have the advantage of having a horse in the beginning.
Exactly. Hey, hello. Well, the deity has jumped in here. How you doing, bro? You ready to start discussing? We were just started going, so you didn't miss too much. You there, Will? He seems to be like, oh, there he is. There. I thought you were AFK for a second. How you doing, bro? I guess since you came in late, what are your general, just thoughts on how cool an Zelda MMO would be? Or just, your basic thoughts of a Zelda MMO.
I think it would fit very well with the established Zelda formula as far as like world building goes, and how deep some of their lore can be. Like there will be a lot of content they could potentially put into it.
Yeah, for sure.
I actually think that's a really good point because, like, if you look at what they did with Hyrule Warriors, they started sort of expanding the universe a bit more, and an MMO could be kind of like another way to do that. Like, you have all these different species, and maybe you could start focusing on the stories of all the other characters aside from Link and Zelda. And there's so much potential there. You could create like a whole, like you Brandon, you joked about, well, you accidentally said like a Zelda anime, right? Like. But, like, hypothetically, like, you know, they could expand the stories where there could be multiple stories that could get pretty extensive for different characters within, I guess, the Zelda universe, or in this case, the Zelda MMO universe.
Yeah, for sure. So, Will, we were just going over my ideas for different classes. I proposed that they would start with 6, mostly the ones that you saw in Breath of the Wild, because, you know, that's the most popular game. So, Hylian, Zora, Gerudo, Goron, Rito, and Sheikah. But what do you think of that list? Maybe some other inclusions you want to put on there?
Actually, yeah, that's really good. But I had my own list. It's pretty much all of those. I put Hylian, but I also, like, there would be an option to. It's pretty much like have them be tuned or not tuned. So like a tuned Hylian,
that could be cool.
A regular Hylian.
Nice.
I put Laurelulian pretty much.
Ooh.
It's like a darker version. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I put Kokiri. I also put Gerudo, Rito, and I like there will be the option to use a tune Rito or whatever. Zora, Deku Scrub, Sheikah, Yiga, Goron, Twilight.
Ooh.
And I think they should create an original race.
Ah, that would be really cool. But Andres, looks like you want to say something real quick. So.
No, you just Will brought up, you know, a lot of other really cool species. Like you brought up the Kokiri, right? And like the Kokiri, you know, they're smaller than most of the other species. However, they're kids. They're the size of children because they are children. Physically speaking, so they'll be limited in certain ways. Maybe they won't be naturally as strong or even that fast, right? But they may have other abilities. Maybe Kokiri could have the ability to also sort of transfer between Kokiri and Korok, and maybe they'll have more options of taking advantage of the environment. Maybe they can actually communicate with the trees, and maybe the trees can do different things, or maybe they can communicate directly with animals. So like that would yield a whole bunch of other potential gameplay possibilities. As we were talking about earlier about how different like species could have different advantages.
So I guess we'll continue on here. We talked about Hylian being kind of the all-around character here, but Zora is next, and obviously they would be the best, you know, water species. I mean, they would just blow everyone out of the water. Haha, puns, memes, ha, funny. Anyways, they would just be unmatched in water, but I don't think that they would be as good. I think just to, you know, kind of balance this out, I don't think they'd be as good on the land. Obviously, they wouldn't be, you know, like a fish out of water. Too many puns. You know, in this game, but I think they would not be as good on land. And I decided to kind of have different magic classes and have different, you know, there's one magic they use, and pretty much every race is immune to the magic, or like super resistant to the magic that they use, obviously, because why wouldn't they be? And then they would be resistant to one magic, and then they would be weak to one magic. So that's kind of the formula I had here, just to make it kind of easy to go over. So I think they would use ice magic. They would be resistant to fire magic because, you know, they're water, so naturally they put out fire. And they'd be weak to electric magic since electricity is just, like, goes right through water and just would electrocute them. And then they'd have a high resistance to explosions because they're also fire-based. But what do you guys think? What other advantages, disadvantages do you think the Zora would have here?
Well, you know, like, I think... Here's the thing, right? Because, like, we just want to... I guess... I feel like the smart thing to do is that whatever advantages a species can have, whatever they can do, I feel like it shouldn't be so exclusive that other species won't be able to at least do something similar, at least in terms of traversal and experiencing the game. But,
right.
So, like, for example, Zora probably would be faster in the water, you know? And maybe they would be... able to do more techniques and attacks underwater,
Mhm.
and while other characters wouldn't be able to. But maybe, you know, throughout the course of the game, they can acquire Zora armor, Zora tunics that will give them the ability to compete with Zoras in water combat. You
Right.
know, but then, you know, I also think about Gorons. Like, I feel like Gorons are very anti-water. Like, not only would they not be strong in the water, they'd be weak in the water. So either
Yep.
I feel like naturally they would just sink. They don't function in water, but maybe like, you know, you would give them some flotation, but they would just be very slow.
Right. Well, what do you think about this?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head, Brandon. Yeah, and I think especially the weakness to electricity, since that's like pretty common in canon and stuff. Like, I thought the whole thing was cool. I'd say yeah, they would be more powerful using water magic.
I think that's something we're forgetting.
Would they not be able to use this might be stupid, but would they not be able to use electric magic, or would they be able to somehow?
Right.
I think they would need to get rubber clothes before they could use electric magic.
That is a good idea. I kind of had the idea that, you know, you might be able to change classes at different points, but you have to level up. Like, I think there will be a leveling system in this game. I don't think it will just be, you know, normal. And I think to get levels, you have to level each class individually. So maybe you can switch different classes if you want to go to different places easier, or if you just want to try out the different classes and have fun. But you kind of start from the bottom of the ring every time. Like, if you switch to a character you've never used before, you're level 1, and you have to start kind of at the basic. Or maybe you can, you know, start like a little bit higher than that, so you don't have to like go through like super basic tutorial stuff as much. But you know, you start pretty low, so you don't just like, oh, I'm amazing at every class now instantly.
Yeah, I think that actually worked pretty well, especially because they could easily come up with, like, let's say like a witch that can transform your species, you know, and it could be kind of like a funny little scene, like they free you every time, like, you know how, remember in Breath of the Wild when Link would go and change the color of his clothes, right? You would have that funny little scene, or whenever Link goes to the Great Fairy and they basically molest Link, but like
Too true.
You know, like, they can have funny scenes like that for whenever you want to go take your character to a witch shop, you know, and she's like, okay, for a certain amount of whatever, I will let you change your species. And it's like, you know, they're changing their body, but the person, every time they show like a funny little scene of the character freaking out because they literally just changed who they are, right? Like, imagine a Goron, which I don't think there's even any female Gorons, changing into a Gerudo. Like, that'd be a really funny scene, you know?
That would. What do you think about that idea, Will?
Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. Especially like with the whole implementing the fairy. I would love to hear like an MMO rendition of the fairy fountain theme. So
yeah, that would be really, really cool. So on to the next person. So I have the Gerudo next. Obviously they'd be, you know, probably the fastest, best in the desert. I think there would be different. I'm not exactly sure what advantages you could have in the desert. I guess like in Breath of the Wild, you kind of got too hot or too cold in the desert. Maybe they're kind of immune to that, but I'm not sure if that mechanic would be in there. So and obviously you're slower walking in the sand, so I don't think that they would have that disadvantage. But they can ride sand seals. That is their mount. Oddly enough, the Zoras don't really have a mount because they kind of have their own ability to swim fast in the water, but the Gerudo, they have their sand seals. I think that'd be a good mount for them. Obviously, they use electric magic. The Gerudo just are known for electric magic, if I'm not wrong. I think they would be weak to ice, only because I don't think of a reason they would be weak to fire or electric, so that would make sense. And the ice, I think there may be more than 3 magics. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not designing a game. I just came up with this on the fly. It took about an hour, so these are not perfect. But then they would be resistant to fire, just because, you know, the desert's hot. So, a little resistant to fire. What do you guys think? Andres, you can go first.
I think your point about them being weak to ice makes some sense. One, because they're more they're accustomed to hot weather, not cold weather. So in that regard, it makes sense. They also don't like wearing clothes, you know. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? But also, like, I mean, just to jump to other universes here. Like in Pokemon, ground types are weak to ice types. So it's not it makes sense. It definitely makes sense. So I think it's a good point there. And you mentioned maybe there being other like magic types. You could easily have both light and dark. We've seen both light and dark in Zelda games, so you could have light, dark, fire, ice, lightning, and water, and you have 6 actual like elemental magical attacks. And I think that'd be fine. You could technically also create an earth element, if you wanted to, and a wind element. So you could have 8 elements easily.
I actually have 2 other special elements that I have for other characters, but we'll get into that. Will, do you have anything to say about the Gerudo? Any ideas you might have?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to choose, like just reach, like super reach, they would be weak to probably like darkness as an element.
Okay.
Other than that, that would just like be the obvious, like, oh yeah, they would be naturally the tallest race since they are pretty much Amazons, all of them.
Right.
But yeah, it's all good ideas. All good ideas.
Now, my question is there going to be any sort of like reference to Ganon, right? Because Ganondorf, does come from the Gerudo. So like, Will, you mentioned that they would maybe be weak to dark, right? But Ganondorf is dark, so like maybe they can make a reference within the mythology saying, normally Gerudo are actually more of a light attribute, but Ganondorf was the exception. Like maybe they could do something like that lore-wise.
That could be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're really powerful if you're able to overcome your weakness. So, yeah.
Right.
Maybe. Yeah, that's an interesting point. And I also wanted to bring up, since we are talking about the Gerudo right now, like obviously they're stronger, but maybe they're, in terms of like combat, they would be really good with sword and shield. Like that would be what they tend to lend more to. Yeah, that's what they use. They use a scimitar and a small round shield, so they'd be really good at shield parries and stringing together sword combos, because that's what I feel like that's what they're good at, like swift strikes and comboing up, and they're like the Fox or the Sheik of the Zelda universe, from Smash.
Right. So with that, I think we'll jump real quick. How do you think the combat, just to deviate, because I think this is a good segue, how do you think the combat will be? Like, will you think it'll be more simplified than, like, say, Breath of the Wild? Do you think it'll be the same? Obviously, I don't think they'll have any kind of, like, physics-based stuff, just because there's so many people being rendered at once. That might be a problem. Typically, MMOs have slightly simpler combat systems than their main games. How do you guys think that will go?
Well, since we're talking about an MMO, I was kind of thinking that we were throwing realism out the water and just hoping they make this 10 years
I want to
from
be
now.
Semi-realistic, because, like, what do you... Cause I don't think they'd make this to, like, 5-10 years from now. So obviously there'd be, like, a Switch 2 or 3, but even, like, PCs have slight trouble with this kind of stuff. So I think it would be kind of a little far to go into, like, something, like, crazy. So I'm gonna be like semi-realistic here.
Okay, so I guess I have some ideas that incorporate some of the physics, but I'll just mention that as something that could come down way down the road, in the future, if there ever were a Zelda MMO, which I think is probably way down the road anyways. But
right.
In terms of gameplay, I feel like real time is still the way to go.
Yeah, for sure.
That makes sense. I mean, like, it would be really cool, and like you can incorporate RPG elements into it, right? Like kind of maybe like Dark Souls in a way, right? Where it's in real time, but there's there is a hard numeric system, lots of stats that go into everything, and different weapons have completely different like combos that you can execute together. So I think something along those lines would work really well. Adding magic, and obviously each species would be pretty different. Like you have the species, that makes them pretty different how they move and such, but then the weapon set also would be pretty different. So maybe each species has their own weapon class, or a couple different weapon classes.
Yeah.
Like Gorons would have the hammer.
Right.
Sheikah have the scimitar. Rito tend to be better archers. Zoras, they like to have the halberds or the tridents.
Yeah. Kind of fast spear like weapons.
Yeah.
What do you think of this, Will?
No, I mean, I could see it being a Final Fantasy 14 style battle system. If you've ever seen that, it's sort of it's not really real time, but it's more like turn based, but like Xenoblade 2, sort of, I guess.
Okay.
Something like that. I could see that working really well. Like I think it works for the Final Fantasy MMOs and stuff like that. So I could see, I can see them taking Zelda in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility. I mean, obviously they're not afraid to, change the fundamentals of Zelda. So especially for something as different as an MMO, that could definitely be an option. Personally, I would like it to be just as close to the normal Zelda combat as possible, but I would not hate having that kind of. I think it would be fun. I just think I would prefer, the normal kind of, the Zelda combat from Breath of the Wild, at least as close to that as we can get. But I think both are valid, battle systems for sure. Okay. Oh, did you have something? Oh, you're disagreeing with me. Okay. Sorry, I got kind of confused there.
Disagree.
Right.
I disagree with everything you say, Brandon.
right. As usual.
What? No, what? Brandon said it? Oh, he's wrong.
Right, just like all you hear is wrong. That's all you hear when I talk, when I open my mouth. Okay, to the next class that I have on here, Gorons. I think they would probably be the most powerful, physically powerful creatures. Obviously, I mean, just look at them. They're huge. They can break boulders with their fists. They're immense. So obviously they would be the most powerful, but I think they would be pretty slow creatures, unless I think the way they would get around, I think would be kind of like how in Twilight Princess they could curl up into a ball and roll around. I think they could do that in a lot of different games, but Twilight Princess is the one that comes to mind. And I think that would be the way that they would go really fast, just kind of charge it up. Maybe even like Majora's Mask, where you kind of charge it up and then you just go super fast. I think that would be kind of their mode of transporting really fast.
I feel like the best way would be to fashion them off of Goron Link from Majora's Mask, right? And like you said, rolling around and even power up would be really cool. But I feel like Goron Link, was a hero, right? Like the power, the form that Link took was from a Goron champion. So most Gorons won't start off that strong. So maybe you do have the ability to roll, but to turn into that fireball spike that goes super fast, that's something you have to build up to.
Yeah, I'd imagine that would, for sure, that would be something you'd have to unlock. Maybe you have more stamina, so you can charge up more and more as you level up. And it's kind of like a momentum-based thing, maybe. The more you charge, the longer you can go without stopping. So something like that would work.
I feel like Gorons probably wouldn't have mounts.
No, they would just crush anything they tried to ride on.
Maybe if you want because they're basically their own mounts, right? Because they can roll. But in terms of aerial stuff, they can't. They're super limited. So what if, just hypothetically, what if Gorons have the ability to do this thing called a Dragon Call, right? Where they can't do extreme, they can't ride anything per se, except maybe those giant dragons we see in Breath of the Wild. So maybe after a certain point, you level up your character enough where you can do a Dragon Call where the Goron shouts and a giant, dragon just comes flying from the mountains, and they can grab onto one of their arms or claws, and they can soar along with them for a little while.
Right.
And that could be one way to give them any kind of mount, because I feel like aside from that, there's no way they could realistically get any kind of mount.
Yeah, I think you would have to call a dragon, man. You'd have to level up a lot. I mean,
yes.
Can the dragon fight with you though? That's the question. Or are they just for transportation?
Well, if they're the Breath of the Wild dragons, they're pretty peaceful.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. All right. To finish off the stats, kind of here, I think they would use fire magic. I mean, that just makes sense. They'd obviously be immune to fire because they walk through freaking lava all the time. I think they would have the most health of any of the characters, just because I mean they seem like they'd be at least the most defense of all the characters.
I think they'd be really good at falling.
Yes, lack of fall damage, very good. That's a good point. I don't have this on this list. I think they'd be
joking.
Really? You're
They're
joking?
Rocks. I mean, yes, I think that they would fall and they would take limited fall damage. I think that makes sense. I think they have high physical defense. Period.
I thought that's what you were saying, so I was like, oh,
but
yeah, that makes sense.
They're like rocks, they sink, they're heavy. Like they're really heavy.
That speaks to the next point, which is they're terrible in water. Just like they just are bad in water.
Right.
I think maybe you could get some kind of item that makes like some kind of like zero gravity, or like some kind of like some item that makes you like lighter. Maybe they could go in the water better.
Maybe they could get iron boots, so they become extra heavy.
That doesn't help.
Well, they'd be able to. Maybe they could actually walk underwater that way at least.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they can't swim through it, but they can walk through it on the ground.
Right.
And I definitely think they should be able to swim at least a little bit. If all the other characters can swim in the game,
yeah,
like
they'd be able to swim.
If you're a Goron, you're limited. You can never be able to do anything. I feel like they should, with enough equipment, you can at least be able to move a little.
Yeah, I think they can swim right off the bat. They're just kind of just bad. They just really can't fight much. But they're weak to ice magic, mostly just because that's the leftover one again. But you said earlier, ground is weak to magic, ice magics in Pokemon, so I guess that works. And they're resistant to electric magic because, I mean, they're rocks. Electricity wouldn't go through them very well anyways. It still hurts them, but they're resistant to it. What do you guys think? Any more ideas? Will, you have any ideas?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I'd say one of their weaknesses would be water.
Yeah.
But yeah, primarily ice is no, nothing else. You pretty much hit the nail on the head again.
I'm amazing, apparently. Andres, before we move on to the next one, do you have anything else to add about the Gorons?
Well, you know, they fight with their fists.
And hammers.
And hammers. So like those are two different types of movesets, and not just hammers, right? They have those rock mashers as well. So like you have different potential things. You could have the Megaton hammer like weapon set. You could have the stone, like the Boulder Crusher like weapon set. And then there's just
they could get that like spring hammer that just bounces people a million miles away.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. For sure. They also could be proficient at wrestling as well. Remember from Twilight Princess?
Oh, that was such a fun segment. That should have been like an entire side mode. Like, why was that? You could only do like twice.
Your weight to your advantage, or at least sumo wrestling does. So like, you know, that could be implemented in a way as well. So they definitely have a various different types of like, you know, move sets they could employ for Gorons. I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
They'd almost have to be completely broken anywhere else but the water. But it's like a little Matt thing where he's incredible on the ground, but you know, he's just a piece of in the air.
Right. I think they'd be pretty slow though. Right? I mean, they're not that fast when they're walking. So I think in that way, that could help balance them out so they're not too ridiculously on land.
High. They're like Ryan. You know, like Ryan from Xenoblade. Like they're good aggro characters. They can take hits, they can soak them, and they can deal them, but they're not fast, you know, and so yeah, like, so there, I think there should be parties as well. And I have some ideas for that, but I'll let you get to that eventually.
Right. Actually, no, that's a good segue, because, like, I plan to ask, do you think, like, the classes would be helping each other out, or fighting against each other, or how would that work?
We should talk about maybe, like the premise of the game, right? Like, I think like there would be different potential ways to play together because it is an MMO, right? It's a massive multiplayer online game. So Zelda's usually a single player experience. So what could they do, right, to make it more of like a massive multiplayer experience? I have a few ideas, and I don't know if you want me to tell them all right now or like, you know, little by little, but I think that definitely like a party system would be important. Like you could team up with different people and work together for various tasks.
Yeah, I think it would be very interesting if you could have, you know, different races working together. But I also think it would be cool if like they fought each other. So I kind of was leaving this guy up to you guys. So I'm glad you have so many ideas here, because I was just kind of like stumped for a bit and I was focusing more on the classes. So I'm glad you have any ideas.
PvP would be amazing too, right? I think PvP 1v1s could totally work. Like I guess in theory you could do everything by yourself, but it would be better to have teammates working together.
What if there was like raids though? Like if you could like take your Goron buddies and go raid different people.
I think it'd be awesome.
Take land and stuff.
Actually, so here's an idea I have for like one of the various like types of quests they could do. Castle sieges. So there could be various. So in this Zelda MMO, the world is huge. So it's basically like, imagine like, you know, everyone, like Hyrule is your playground. You can do everything you want in it. You could build castles, you could build territories, you could build villages, and you can raid villages, you know, take their resources and build up your own village. So we could have castle sieges. So like people work together. They can literally emulate an actual like medieval war where there are two castles feuding against each other, and you can have parties that are sieging. There could actually be sieging tactics and fighting together, and I think it'd be like a super epic sort of thing. But again, this is one of those things where we're getting pretty grandiose. You know, like, this is not saying it's really realistically possible, because you're combining an MMO with Fortnite, with Zelda, maybe real time, maybe lots of physics involved. Like, that's not saying it's possible now or realistic, but maybe 15 years from now it is.
Right.
So,
right.
you know, employing all these different things like real-time combat, working together, and trying to siege a castle would be really awesome.
Yeah, I like this idea. We're gonna go out of the realm of possibilities a little bit. Not all the way to the moon, but, you know, something that can't happen for, you know, 5-10 years. At least not on, you know, mobile technology. Not on anything Nintendo has right now. Their CPU's just not capable. So, like, this is an idea I've had, like, for a long time. I've grown up my whole life, like, thinking of different video game ideas, and Zelda's one of my favorite franchises. So this is an idea I've had for a while. Just, like, I'm getting short on breath. I'm so excited. Like, castle sieges would be amazing. And especially when I saw Hyrule Warriors, I thought maybe the time could be right, but then it didn't happen. But I was hoping, like, real-time combat, like Breath of the Wild, with just hundreds of different MMO people, you know, other people online fighting against each other, just trying to take this castle, and just, it'd be amazing.
I'll be right back. I'm just going to mute myself for a second. Actually, I don't even want to mute myself. Oh, there we go. We'll be right back.
So I thought this was, like, this is one of my dreams. Like, it's one of my dreams to have this happen. So I'm glad Andres brought that up, because it would just be absolutely amazing. But, like, I'm just so sad that modern technology just isn't catching up to my dreams, my hopes and dreams. What do you have to say about this, Will? What do you think of this idea? Or do you have any other ideas of your own of how it might work?
Yeah, that actually, it sounds great. You know, with the whole real-time combat, stuff like that. I think, and even then, that would, like, hit home at it's the same Zelda experience, but you're experiencing it with other people. Like, this is how other people would play Zelda if they were, like, in your living room right next to you. And no, I think that means a lot. So yeah, I would very much like to see, because I feel like the Zelda community and, like, the Zelda franchises is probably one of the best franchises, like, in history ever.
Yeah.
So
my favorite franchise.
See more, right. I'd like to see more, like, interconnectivity between them.
So are you on the camp of, well, I guess they might be able to do both, but if they could only do one, do you think they'd be PvP, or you think they'd be, like, the races would be, like, working together? Which one would you prefer?
Like, one or the other? I would prefer, I feel like you need to have both.
How would that work, though?
Like, I think an MMO needs to have both.
Yeah. I haven't played very many MMOs just because I prefer that real-time combat, and a lot of MMOs just don't have that. So I'm not very experienced with this kind of stuff. So I'm just. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't play too many MMOs either. But, like, I played RuneScape, and back in RuneScape, the way it worked were there were places where it was pretty, for the most part, civil. You could challenge people to duels, right? And then everything else, like, we could work together with other people on certain quests. But there was this section called the Wild, which is basically, like, the outskirts of everything, and then there, everything went, you know. I would like it if the way it worked is that there were, like, you start off in certain villages, right? There are some certain villages, like, you know, where there are NPCs, right? There are NPCs that have knights and stuff to protect you, but basically, like, anything goes. Like, in my opinion, like, I would love it if like, you could do anything. You could work together with people, you can kill people, but they design the game in a way where if you're going to just rob or kill people, there's going to be punishment for it, right? So if you start the game off in a big civilized town, sure, someone could just come up and destroy you,
but there's a price to pay, and there are lots of guards in the city that are there to uphold justice. So, you know, if you want to do that, you better be prepared to sort of handle yourself. But there may also need to be some safe areas, because people are going to get really good at this game. So there probably should still be some safe areas, but I think most of the game should be free reign, and basically you just kind of you pick your I guess your tribe, whoever you decide to place your allegiances with, that's who you place your allegiances with, and you maybe can't kill them, but you can kill everyone else.
Right. Yeah, I think it'd be annoying if, like, you know, I was playing with and just like I was a Hylian and some Hylian rocks would be like stab me in the back. It's like, what the heck? That'd be crappy. I guess another way that, you know how it could work is maybe maybe it's PvP most of the time, but if you invite people like into a party to play together, then they can't hurt you. Like if you invite and they accept the invitation, then they can't attack you. Like you work together. Maybe that's how it could work. Maybe you can like go do missions and stuff, and you can have like the different advantages working together.
Yes, and I think they should be punished if they let you die too. Like, because I've seen some cases where people team up and then their friends die and then they take their items. Like that should not be allowed, in my opinion, because there are going to be people who will do whatever they can to get what they can, right? So like, oh, I'm a level 50. I'll help you level 10 noobs. We can go to the far reaches of Hyrule together, right? And then you guys go fight a dragon, and he just kills by a rock and watches everyone die. Kills a dragon and takes his stuff. You know, like I don't think it should be that free. I think, you know, if you do agree to team up with somebody that you can't really get the resources, the reason you team up with them is because they help you kill a dragon, but you can't actually get a benefit from, you know, them dying in any way.
Yeah. I think if they want to give you something, they'd have to drop it like themselves.
Also, by the way, I'm pretty sure I just ripped off the story for some crazy MMO anime. Like, there's a whole bunch of them. So, just saying.
Probably. Yeah. Will, what do you think?
Oh, yeah. Well, I assume that you were asking me earlier, but I would probably... I'm on the side of, like, all the races working together. I don't know why. Like, I feel like they would just work together in perfect harmony.
Yeah, that could definitely be. I just feel like PvP also would be really fun. So I don't know, but yeah, it makes sense. Like in the when you think of like lore and things like that, like it makes sense because like I mean you're playing Breath of the Wild, you know, have Zoras coming up and trying to kill you. Although if you're playing A Link to the Past, as I figured out the other day, Zoras are total jerks. And they will try to murder you if they see you.
Well, I actually tried to bring that up earlier. I mentioned that I think we're forgetting something about the Zoras. I forgot to say there are two types of Zoras. There's the river Zora, like there are the green sort of river Zoras, like from Link to the Past, and then the Zoras we know now. Like there could be two different Zora species.
For sure. Sorry, I'm trying to comment here in the chat, and of course I have a typo. I'm so bad at this.
Them working together. I mean, not working together. I'm sorry, working against each other being really cool. Like you could definitely add like a narrative to that, or like that a war is being instigated or whatever. It's like a big race war or like a battle for the Triforce. Like it could be a every Zelda game sort of opens up with, or it just has the story of like long ago people fought for the Triforce. Like this could be that game, or it could be that.
That's a great idea.
Game.
That is actually a really, really good idea. What do you think would be the prize? Like if which race got the Triforce, would they get like a special prize? And I assume it would be server by server. I don't think they'd be like just one Zelda server. I think there'd be a bunch of different servers, and you can like start your own server and different things like that. So there'd be different timelines going on at the same time. Which I mean, if the Zelda timeline isn't ruined enough, this is just. I don't think this could any way it could fit into the timeline.
I think the Zelda MMO would just be completely separate. Like,
no timeline at all.
There's no connection, you know, with any of the other Zelda games. I almost like the idea of there not actually being a Triforce, or like just a story where the story explains that, hey, look, there are different, you know, kingdoms that are waging war against each other to acquire the Triforce, but that just kind of explains why you have different kingdoms that are pitting against each other. Maybe you could have a Triforce event that activates like once a day,
hey guys,
right? Where you could join a large party and two large parties wage war against each other, and whoever wins gets a wish granted, right? And that wish can maybe give you some sort of crazy buff or a lot of money or something like that, or a cool power up or mount. That could be, if they want to play the Triforce, that could be it, like a weekly or daily event that gives you a really nice prize for whoever's like the remaining survivors for some sort of big event.
Okay. Yeah, I could balance it out, because I mean, if like just one person gets, like one clan gets the Triforce, and it's just like, well, they have the Triforce now, we're screwed.
I could see it being canon. I could see tying up a lot of the loose ends, actually, as far as like the origins of Hyrule, a lot of stuff that could potentially be like tied up. I don't know. I think the Triforce should stay like an in narrative thing, because it, like, as we all know, no one actually ever gets the Triforce. It's ripped away from them, because their hearts were dark, and I think at the end of the game should be that. Like, it should be some sort of god or the sages saying, look, you guys are way too crazy about this, and they just take it, and that sort of explains everything.
Maybe.
So I guess it's an interesting point. I was just like thinking, like, I never thought of it like as a continuous story. I just thought of it like as a continuous world. So you have like this more of a narrative in mind, and it makes sense, especially with what you said about the the actual like Triforce War. That could explain that point, that period in between A Link Between World, A Link to the Past, and Ocarina of Time. So yeah, I mean, it could fit if they just pin it down to a wartime period with there are many different like kingdoms fighting each other. That actually would make a lot of sense.
I could see them trying to make it canon, just because I mean, Triforce Heroes is canon. Like, what? Why? Why is Triforce Heroes canon? Who knows, but it is, and it's something else. So I could see Nintendo just be like, yup, this is canon, just make up some bullcrap reason why it is, and there you go. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much that for that point. So we'll continue on with the class bios here. We're down to the last two. These are kind of interesting. These, I think, are maybe a little more unique than the other ones. But the Rito is next, and I think they can fly. I think they should be able to fly. Obviously, they can't fly, forever. I think there'd be a stamina meter that would go down, and you could fly more as you level up. But I think they can fly, and they'd be the best ranged character. But since flying is kind of freaking overpowered as heck, I think they'd be weak to every type of magic while flying. I mean, imagine you're a Rito, and you get hit by an ice arrow when you're flying. You're just gonna fall like a rock. You're just gonna fall right out of the sky. Like, you get burned, you can't just be on fire and fly. You're gonna be like freaking out, and you're gonna fall. Is that by lightning?
Risk,
you're gonna fall.
High reward.
Yeah.
So they can fly, but if they get hit, you lose like almost all your life. Like, you are grounded. If you get hit by like a lightning arrow, you are grounded and you are stunned for a little bit. So maybe as you level up, you can do some things to maybe like minimize the amount of like stun or damage you take. But like, it could be a huge drawback. Like, being able to fly, you're punished if you get hit.
Yes, and I think they would have wind magic, which may be able to stun characters. I didn't have much time, so I came up with this, and I was like, maybe they could stun people. I don't know. But
it could be really good at pushback.
Yeah.
And like
shove people off ledges. That'd be hilarious.
Right.
Like Xenoblade.
Yeah. Or like, you could maybe ability you can obtain is as you level up, right? Like, because one of the biggest weaknesses for Rito would be that if they hit in the air, they're done. Maybe they could develop wind magic, where if they see a volley of arrows coming, they could maybe shoot a wind blast to repel some of those volleys to give them some more defensive measures in the air.
That is a very good idea. What do you think, Will?
I think Rito as a race would be cool. Like, that was a very, very good idea. And yeah, I think actually stunning enemies with wind magic is like perfect. So yeah, I wouldn't change that. I would have Rito be also like a really well balanced like race. Like, I could see them being a very good support character, since they sing a lot and they play instruments and stuff. so I can see them like singing a specific tune and like getting a strength buff or like a health buff or like I don't know,
Oh man,
um,
they're the
That would be
increased
really cool.
dexterity or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah,
What's the name of that weapon class in Monster Hunter? Because I feel like there's a weapon class in Monster Hunter that describes
it's
exactly what you're talking
it's the
about.
Warhorn, I think.
Yeah, like they could have that option as well on top of range, like which that class also has too. So I think that would work out really well actually in terms of like what they can offer to a team.
Yeah, for sure.
There's one other idea though, because I feel like if the Zelda MMO should have exploration, right, and it should have combat, but I should also feel like there should be puzzles involved as well,
Yeah.
right? So maybe they could take the Triforce Heroes idea and sort of like expand upon that to a degree, And the reason I bring it up is I'm just thinking, oh, what if some of the Rito could use their magical abilities, like their singing voice, to maybe give them the ability to open certain doors, or something like that that could help out for entering some dungeons.
So you think if that's the case, you kind of have to go with the idea that everyone works together. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to get into different dungeons. So puzzles is actually another thing I want to talk about. So that's a good segue. Andres, you're just amazing with all these segues over here. Just it's awesome. I love it. I don't know how puzzles would work. It's confusing. I don't think they'd be able to have physics-based puzzles. Well, maybe let's just assume maybe they can have physics-based puzzles. Well, maybe let's go a little
the
out
way
of the way.
I see it, right, is that if you look at Breath of the Wild, right, like almost every puzzle can be solved in multiple ways. So I brought up how maybe Rito, if for team puzzles, one option would be maybe thinking it could give them options to open up certain dungeons or doors. That wouldn't necessarily be the only way. Maybe you could blow up the door. Maybe you could go from under, right? There could be other options so that other different species could offer. So, by giving puzzles more than way to solve them, certain characters may have certain powers that other characters may not have, but because there's more than one way to do things, that sort of that exclusivity is mitigated. So I think that's one way you could do it. And I actually think that what we see in Breath of the Wild with the puzzles is actually almost like the groundwork for what this game could become, right? Like you look at the physics-based puzzles, and some crazy stuff could really go down with that. And in fact, I had this idea, right? So I came up with multiple ideas for like multiplayer segments. Like I brought up Castle Sieges as one. I think like hunts, like basically like Monster Hunter, where you just go on a team and you hunt giant bosses in the world. That would be one. Another would be maybe saving princesses or princes for different kingdoms, like a recovery mission. But the one I really want to talk about right now, since we're talking about puzzles and physics, is maybe environmental cataclysm. This Hyrule, for MMO Hyrule, is the most like crazy Hyrule ever, because sometimes there's gonna be earthquakes, there's gonna be rock slides, there's gonna be hailstorms, thunderstorms, lava eruptions, sometimes random events that happen, and you'll be in a party and you guys will have to work together to somehow quell whatever's going on, right? And that's going to require crazy physics like powers, like what Link has in Breath of the Wild, like the magnetism, cryonis, and things like that. You could use other power-ups similar to that to affect the environment to sort of solve cataclysms that occur, to create even more environmental puzzles like through nature. I think that'd be a really interesting way to dynamically create puzzles in like a team-based sort of fashion.
Yeah, for sure. I think those are all really good ideas. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe because you played an MMO before in your life, but I'm like kind of blown away. I'm just like, oh man, so many great ideas.
I know, I don't play MMO, so I guess I just don't think of it as an MMO. I think of it as like this crazy idea that just doesn't make any sense from an MMO sort of construct. But, I feel like if they make a Zelda MMO, they would want to change it up. They wouldn't just want to make just another MMO with a Zelda skin.
Right. They're making, like, my dream MMO over here. Because, like, it's the reason I haven't gone into MMOs much is because, like, the combat's usually not as fun, in my opinion. Like, I tried to play, like, RuneScape, I think it was. And I thought the combat was, like, boring. So boring. I just got bored the entire thing. They usually don't have characters I care about, or worlds that I really care about, because... like, it's just new worlds. I don't care about them right off the bat. Obviously, I probably would care about them if I actually got into it, but then, the gameplay itself isn't fun enough for me to want to get into it. So I think just having a Zelda MMO, would be amazing. Well, how do you think the puzzles would be? Because, like, I don't really have any other ideas.
I mean, I think some cool stuff could come out of the physics engine. I could see a lot of problems as well, like with trolls and stuff. It's like, oh, why don't I use my cryognosis to freeze this while you try to, I could see a lot of problems coming out of that.
But I almost like the idea of it, though, right? Because imagine where a cataclysm happens next to a kingdom that you're supposedly you set your alliance to, right? So let's say you have 16 people who are on one team, right, who are protecting their kingdom. They're actually in the middle of a castle siege where there are two kingdoms that fighting each other. So it's a 16v16 sort of thing, right? Maybe they're battling for that Triforce event to get that awesome perk, but it just so happens, because this is a crazy high rule, that one kingdom has a great cataclysm, and they have to deal with the cataclysm while also dealing with the castle siege. So guess what happens? The other team's gonna take advantage of this and maybe use the cryonists to like make it harder to deal with the cataclysm. So it mixes things up even more, and it forces players to come up with more ways to solve problems. But yes, it would also be brutal, because you're getting a double whammy here. You have an environmental cataclysm and a castle siege. So maybe it would be very brutal, but they could maybe come up with ways to offer rewards to make it worth, that the damage you could potentially take, and also find ways to like if you lose, maybe you don't lose that much during a castle siege. That way, if you do get beat, it's not like, oh, I lost all my items. You just don't lose that much, but the reward would be awesome.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as far as physics-based puzzles go, like in a dungeon, that would be really annoying. I understand what you're saying, Will. Like if I'm trying to solve a puzzle and they're just like, I'm trying to, use I'm forgetting all the names in the moment, of course. I'm trying to like, build up energy and launch something away, but they just keep freezing it or something stupid, or that would be annoying. So maybe when you're in a dungeon, it's not as MMO, like you're still playing with like friends, but there's not just random people just like running around messing you up all the time when you're in a dungeon. Sense. Maybe you can only enter it with your party, and when somebody else enters it, they go into like a separate universe thing that they don't interact with you. So
that would definitely stop people from screwing around with you. But consider this possibility, just because since we're
considering all possibilities here.
So you correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, but you started watching Black Clover recently, right?
Yes. Still watching.
How far are you in it?
I caught up. Except, so I think there's one episode.
Don't spoil it for me, because I'm not caught up.
Okay.
But I've seen at least to the point where they went to the dungeon, and it was two parties fighting to get to the end of the dungeon. Think about the benefits of that, though. So maybe you can still compete against another party to get to the end of a dungeon to get the treasure, but maybe they limit the sort of some abilities you have so they can't like screw around with you in a very annoying way.
Yeah, that's a good
Or maybe
idea.
there's just different kinds of dungeons. Maybe some dungeons are just one party solving a puzzle, but maybe there's more dungeons that are just kind of more like mazy and combat-y, so it's not really that annoying when other people are fighting against you, because that's the point of the dungeon, to fight against another team to get to the end. But there are other dungeons, like you said, where there's no one else, so they can't annoy you. It's like what Will was saying, because some physics-based stuff could get really annoying, if they don't come up with ways to limit that.
Okay. Well, Will, I have a feeling that for the sake of discussion, we both may have interrupted you, so if you have anything more to say on this topic, please feel free.
Yeah. Like I was trying to say, I think that could come up with like more problems, and I think I would be just simply more interested in this is like a personal thing. I could see like physics working. Actually, I think that would be more fun, but I think I would prefer traditional dungeon crawling Zelda. Like it's like, I can use the hook shot here. It's like, okay, you hold on to the lens of truth, and you can hold on to this while I hold on to that. I think that like in a more traditional Zelda sense, like if we tackle the water temple together, there are multiple routes and lots of backtracking. So I could see people splitting off like into two to tackle each route, or something like that.
So maybe like a 3D Triforce Heroes.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's what you're saying. Just like Triforce Heroes, but it's only for 2D Zeldas. But imagine they did it in 3D. To what you're saying, that'd be really cool as well. There's a lot of possibilities with that.
Yeah, I think they might be able to do both. Have maybe some where you can Maybe there's a bunch of traditional ones, but there's also some more what kind of maybe race-like ones where you kind of racing to see who can get the treasure first. Maybe there could be different types.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's so much variety. This is crazy. Like, there's so many options. Like, they could expand, and that's why it's never gonna happen, because it's just too cool.
Right.
Like, it's just way too cool.
It would take so long to make. It takes so freaking long.
Well, you were kind of talking about the narrative a little bit, and like, I don't play too many MMOs, so like, you know, I am a little lost as to, I guess, like, the premise for MMO usually. Like, what is it about the story that gets people to play through it? Like, do you think there'll be like a main campaign of quests that you do with other people together to get to a certain point? And how would they do that in a way to keep you playing, or would they not keep you playing? How do you think that would work, Will?
I mean, I don't have much experience with MMOs either. Like, I literally only play Final Fantasy 14, but usually, like, I see people like try to tackle the story, and there are lots and lots and lots of optional like dungeons and stuff like that. So if I had to say anything, people would like keep them into the story by I don't know. So like, there are some interesting characters here and like some interesting what if scenarios there. Like, I could see them implementing that into this game, and just throw it and make it a spin-off or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, Final Fantasy 14 is one more MMO than I've played, so you know a little bit more about it for me. If that's all we have to say on that topic, I can do the last one of the classes that I think will exist. So, is that all we guys had to say on the puzzles and stuff, or do you have any more?
Well,
ideas?
I mean, if we're talking about this MMO taking a lot of Breath of the Wild elements, I feel like everything is a puzzle, depending on how you consider your definitions of puzzles, right? Like, even boss fights can be kind of like puzzles, you know. But yeah, I mean, I guess for puzzles, like hard puzzles, like yeah, we could save it for another MMO discussion.
Okay, well, I guess I'll move on to the last one here, and that is the Sheikah. And I think, obviously, the Sheikah are kind of like a ninja class, so I think they'd be, like, super stealthy. Like, maybe even be able to turn invisible for, like, a couple seconds at a time. And I think they would probably have the least amount of health of any of the characters. I think they'd be mostly, like, you know, trying to stealth in their way in places, not try to, you know, just go in guns blazing, for lack of a better term, because there's no guns. I think they'd be very fast, probably one of the faster classes, and I think they could have poison magic, and I don't think, you know, none of the other classes can resist poison magic, so I think that'd be kind of their way to make up the fact. My next point is that I don't think they do that much damage. Like, their every hit wouldn't do a bunch unless you're stealthing. Like, I don't think maybe they'd be good for, like, kind of, you know, damage over time, but each hit doesn't do, like, a crap ton of damage at once. What do you guys think?
I kind of like that idea. I definitely think they should be fast. But you were talking about, like, poison magic. I think that's an option. But I kind of like the idea of them being basically like ninja. Like, they have a lot of, like, traps and tools. You know, maybe that can come in the form of magic. But I feel like they could have, like, lots of different things, like shurikens and different things to sort of hide, setting bombs and traps, creating maybe pitfall, like, traps, you know, like creating a patch of grass. If someone walks over it, they fall into a hole or something like that. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Or maybe using tripwire, stuff like that would be really interesting. That's one angle. I also like the idea that Sheikah, depending on how you play the game, maybe they could become either Yiga or Sheikah, right? Because they're very similar, but one's good, one's bad. And the normal Sheikah could have, like, light powers, which could mean maybe you could have, like, shields and stuff like that. Like in Skyward Sword, Impa has a shield. I don't know if you remember when Girahim there's that point where Girahim, like, is coming at Zelda across a bridge, and Impa creates the light force shield, right? So maybe, you know, that's an option if you're more of a Sheikah with light powers, right? But if you go more to the dark side, you become a Yiga and you have dark powers, maybe it could be more comparable to something like along the lines of Girahim. You know, that'd be really interesting.
Right. What do you think, Will?
I think, yeah, I think I agree with you, Brandon. I think that they would be definitely like 100% the fastest race. Like I don't think I'd see any race being faster on land. I think Sheikah and Andres makes a good point too. Like they have shown to be really, really adequate at light magic. But I think I like the Breath of the Wild rendition of them better, in which they're really, really technologically advanced. So I think that could play really well into like this MMO.
Yeah.
And then if you combine that with like the light, I think that they would. I think that like that would be a really good race, just in general, and that would also like add to the mysterious, because like even in this game like this, and I guess I'm sort of sorting up a narrative where it's like tying up those ends. Even now we still won't know everything about the Sheikah, so I like the idea of them being like the most mysterious race in like the Zelda mythos.
Well,
and
I
that's
don't.
still holding up there.
It's a very interesting point. Well, actually, I don't know if you guys know about this, but you guys, I'm sure you guys have played Ocarina of Time. Or if you haven't, in Ocarina of Time, in the quest for the Lens of Truth, you go into the well, and the well actually has a lot of chains and blooded up walls and skeletons, and it's basically like a tomb or a torture chamber for Sheikah, like from the war. So the Sheikah got completely messed up during the war. What'd you say, Will?
I made a funny face.
Oh, so you know there could definitely maybe some story elements there that are about Sheikah getting messed up because they have a lot of power. And actually, to your point about them using like technology, what if like they have more of an influence over guardians, maybe, right, or something along those lines? And what if we kind of combine that with my Castle Siege idea? So during Castle Siege elements, Sheikah could bring in actual, like, guardian technology. So you literally have, like, guardians, like, they're basically, the Hyrule version of tanks. They're shooting laser beams, and people could ride on top of the guardians, and, like, this is, like, complete mayhem.
Oh, my gosh, that'd be insane.
Like, imagine, like, using a guardian to siege a castle, destroy the wall, climb it, and just take over.
Yeah, absolutely,
man. Yeah, I could see a because in Breath of the Wild, there, like, if like no one in the comments knows or anything, there's like this epic piano solo that's meant to be like the most like nihilistic thing ever. It's meant to like shake your boots, and it works. So I could see like a really heroic rendition of that, like while you're riding one, it's like, yeah, charge, and it's like all over the castle and stuff.
Right.
I think that would be cool.
I feel like it'd be a little overpowered if they were giant. Maybe you could make bigger and more elaborate guardian creations as you level up, because I feel like just access to every Sheikah having access to guardians would be a little ridiculous. But maybe like that's like the ultimate thing you can like level up to, and maybe you can like ride smaller guardians or have guardians like a pet almost that comes around and like fights with you. I love your point, Will, that they have technology, because I think that could really differentiate themselves from the other classes.
I mean, that could be their mount. Maybe like a Sheikah bike is their mount. Hylians get horses, right? Sheikah get little mini motorcycles, right? Which is really cool. All of a sudden, the Sheikah are the most used like speed race in the game,
right?
Like I think you definitely have to come up with ways to balance it out.
Well, I did say they're like super. I think they have low health. I mean, Sheikah just feel like they have low health in general. They don't wear like a bunch of heavy armor. I mean, the Yiga are pretty low health enemies in Breath of the Wild, Yiga, however you say that. But I feel like Sheikahs don't really have that much health, and that's just how it feels like to me. So that could be a good way to balance it out.
Yeah.
So, what if the Sheikah can get a guardian? Like, how would they balance that out? Like, if Sheikah can get a guardian to fight with them, would it have to be like one guardian per party? Like, would that be a fair limitation? And if that's the case, maybe other species could get another sort of boss character to work for them as well.
I mean, you said Gorons could have dragons, so it's possible.
Well, I meant like for riding, but
but I mean,
maybe they could get a dragon. Or like a Dodongo, a giant Dodongo.
Ooh, yeah,
right.
That's a good idea. That's actually probably more fitting than the dragon ideas. They can ride Dodongos.
Actually, now that I think about it, Daruk's divine beast is that the Dodongo? I'm like I called it an iguana when I was listing it as a mount. I called it an iguana, but I think a Dodongo is like more fitting. Like way more fitting.
It very well could be based off a Dodongo. I did not think of that. That makes a
similar.
lot of sense.
I'm trying to think. I feel like I have to double check, but I feel like the Dongos have only 2 limbs, not counting the tail. And I think the Guardian Iguana, right, had 4 limbs, not counting the tail.
Like 5, I think.
If you count the tail, it's 5 limbs, and I think the Dongos only have 3.
But it's also like
it's still
really
similar
advanced piece of technology.
Yeah,
so,
right. It could still
it
be.
Does
it
the
could still be
scooch
inspired by Dodongo,
like Dodongos do. Yeah, I think it's probably inspired by Dodongos just because that makes way too much sense.
It really does.
Let's see, what would the Hylians have then?
Dragon.
Dragon, okay.
I mean, you could cop out.
Horse.
Well, because like I was just thinking about like the like mounts, and I thought Goron just wouldn't be able to roll really fast, and that would be their mount, right? So like I was thinking of horses as just mounts, you know, and then I was thinking each species could have like a boss character.
Yeah.
So what if Hylians, their horse is either A, you give them a dragon or something crazy, or maybe what you're saying, well, it's just a horse, but maybe horses are like just like the most powerful mount, so it's like a stopgap between a boss and a mount, so it's just a really good mount.
I feel like Gerudos would help the Moldugas, because that'd be amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They deserve no less.
Right. What would the Oh wait, yeah,
Dorito
it's
could
Chica
get
Garden,
these
yeah.
Loft wings.
Oh, Lawfully?
Yeah.
And then they can fly forever. Like infinite flight ability there. That'd be cool.
The way Final Fantasy 14 does it, it's like they have regular old mounts, like just a chocobo, and then they have like legendary mounts, and there's like these ice unicorns and like mecha chocobos, and they go crazy and they create new stuff. I guess that's what I was thinking. I was like, okay, a regular mount could be a horse, but like a legendary mount could be Epona or like Ganon's horse.
Ooh, Ganon's horse is huge. They have the big horse in Breath of the Wild that's supposed to represent like Ganon's horse, isn't it?
Yeah, I like that. I like that they sort of let you read between the lines as a Zelda fan instead of just saying, "Oh, I think it's Ganondorf's horse."
Right.
Yeah. So here's an idea. So you guys know Lord of the Rings, right? You know the giant, like the giant golem they have in Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of giant things in Lord of the Rings.
But they usually have them like chained up before they let them loose. To
oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Right. So what if Hylians, maybe not the Hylians, maybe both of them, they use the Hinox as their golem. Like they have them chained up and they're like ready to fight, and they just let them loose in the battlefield.
That'd be really cool.
That would be cool. Like if you throw in the fact that some of the Sheikah can control guardians. Like I think that would be really epic.
Yeah.
What would Zora have? What kind of?
I was thinking
giant fish.
The Krakens on wheels.
The Krakens on wheels. I feel like because the Moldugas they're sand. They can't go off of sand, so I feel like they'd be kind of limited. And like Ritos, if they had like a fish, can't go out of the water. So it'd be good for like defense, like defending underwater castles or something. But like can't exactly attack with that.
I think it'd be funny to have like a giant Octorok that was just like shooting cannonballs. It's just on a cart. It's on a cart.
Wait, octopuses can go on land though. Like they can just on land.
Just
octopus. Yeah, I think. Maybe so.
Never
giant turtle. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of some cartoon.
They could have a giant turtle actually. There's that is a thing.
That's actually a real thing. Unlike octopuses, perhaps. I don't actually know. I feel like I saw that in a cartoon and was like, that's probably possible.
I mean,
I'd say a penguin, just because I like penguins.
Dude, everyone loves penguins. You gotta love
penguins. Should be from the Mario MMO, and they just use penguins to kill everyone.
I could see that.
Next
like the cutest creature in like the whole series being like murderous and like genocidal. That would be fun.
Yeah.
There's this like
Mario, you killed my kid.
Right? There's like this indie video game where it's just a penguin that goes around and murders a bunch of other penguins. It's hilarious. So, but yeah, I think that's.
I'm trying to think of all the mounts though. So, Gorons maybe get Dodongo, right? So Zoras get, I guess, a giant Kraken or an Octorok, right? Or did we agree on something else?
Turtle, I think.
Oh, turtle, right,
penguin, turtle, Octorok, something.
Yeah, Sheikah get Guardians.
Octoroks can walk on land, so that would work. They do in A Link to the Past.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, okay, I guess that can happen as well.
They have a land Octorok.
I knew Octopus could go on land.
So they could have a giant Octorok that just shoots cannonballs. Yeah, they could do that.
I am not crazy.
They move pretty fast too.
Yeah, I also like the idea. We briefly mentioned both sand and water battles. So what if, you know, there's snow terrain, there's water terrain, there's sand terrain, and each one has different implications for war, not just like on the field as well. So, you know, maybe there'll be unique bosses. Like there could be Krakens, but it wouldn't just be exclusive just to Zoras, you know. So, and those could also just be bosses. Like I mentioned that maybe there could just be hunts for giant monsters in the Hyrule world, kind of like a Monster Hunter element. Maybe some of those are going out on the sea on a boat fighting a Kraken, or maybe not on the sea, and maybe someone's to find a giant Hinox or fight a group of Lynels, like a Lynel. Imagine a Lynel herd.
Oh,
can you imagine that?
Wreaking havoc across Hyrule.
Imagine like just coming up against several Lynels, and there's like 8 of you. Like, how do you win? There's 12 Lynels, there's 8 of you out in a field, and you're surrounded.
You die.
Like,
that's what happens. You die.
No, you run for survival, and you hope the other 7 distract the 12 Lynels.
Right.
But, like, it would be,
you don't have to outrun the bear, you just have to outrun your friend.
Yeah, but can you imagine how exhilarating that would be? Like, just the escape or trying to survive? Like you could try fighting, and if you're good enough, maybe you could win, but most cases, most people just run. But, like, that would just be so epic to have that in the game, you know?
Amazing. It should have been Zelda Breath of the Wild.
That's what I want in a game, where there's just some things that are just so insane that it's nearly impossible to beat them, but it's technically not. But I mean, that's kind of what Breath of the Wild did, though. In the beginning,
and then you got overpowered, like, you know, 20 hours in or less.
But in the beginning, like, if you saw a Hinox or a Guardian, you were just like, "Oh my God, run, run, run!" Oh, laser, dead. You know, like, or they throw a boulder or a tree at you and you're dead. Like, I love that in Breath of the Wild. I love that they were to take that to another level where they have even harder stuff, like a herd of Lynels that will chase you. You know, for at least a mile or something. Like, that would be. Maybe brutal, but I like brutal.
Yeah,
so.
That is an amazing idea.
Another like a couple legendary mounts I have is like Link's Divine Beast and the Lord of the Mountain.
Oh,
dude,
that could be a legendary mount.
I also have the Spirit Train and the King of Red Lions.
Dude.
So, he could probably, like, I would put him, like, I would make a reach and say he could work on land or sea.
These are some amazing ideas. I'm loving your ideas right now.
Well, I like the idea of the King of the Red Lions being on a cart.
I like the idea of King of the Red Lions being in anything. He should be in everything. Anything and everything. All of the Wind Waker references should happen. He is on land in Hyrule Warriors. He's on land, like rides waves.
He spawns in his own water, so
yeah.
Just see him like sliding around, making his own water in the game.
Oh yeah, we're not considering magic. We're not considering magic here. Like Moldugas could just make their own sand to move in. Like water creatures can just make water underneath them. Like this freaking magic.
When they create water and sand, it actually creates water and sand and it stays there. So the entire environment is just being like terraformed and dwarfed as the fight goes on.
Oh my gosh. No way anything would run that.
Let's create a snow creature. There needs to be snow species. There's the snow rhinos, actually. Breath of the Wild is snow rhinos.
Yes!
Moose.
That'd be amazing mounts. They're not mounts in Breath of the Wild, but they should be in this
video. No, you know how many times I tried to ride a rhino?
Dude, I literally thought you could, and I was trying in order to make a video. Or, like, I was trying to record some, like, footage and look cool. And I was like, gosh dang, why isn't this working? And I looked it up, and you can't ride them. I was like, what is this bullcrap?
But you can ride bears.
Yeah, you can ride bears. You can't ride those.
The bear, I tried to fight a bear, but it killed me. And then I got the Master Sword and I went back and killed it. But it was hilarious.
I made the
I
bear
love
my
Breath of the Wild.
bitch. I was like,
Yeah.
you're mine now.
I want the next Breath of the Wild to just have most of these ideas. Like, even if it's not
Right?
multiplayer, like, I want there to be, like, a herd of Lynels, you know, or a
Yes.
Kraken in the water, right? Like,
Yes.
that.
That's
You know,
kind of my
or-
problem with Breath of the Wild is there's like these bosses, but there's just a bunch of the same ones everywhere. Like, why aren't there more types? That's
I
like,
want the world to be, like, even bigger and more
Yes.
enemies and more side quests and
Yes.
more villages and just more.
Breath of the
more.
Wild definitely has room for expansion, which is why Zelda is one of it's my favorite franchise because I feel like it has the most room to make cool stuff happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those few like franchises that isn't afraid to like say, "Hey, new art style. Hey, new mechanics. Hey, we don't like harping on the old things," and like still creates a masterpiece.
Speaking
the
of
next-
that, I think we should go into the last. We're going a little long here, so we're going to the last point I have here, and that is the art style. What kind of art style do you think? Do you think they pull from Breath of the Wild? Do you think maybe that'd be too graphically intensive for an MMO? But then again, maybe in 10, 15 years, that'd be easy to run. So I guess kind of, no holds barred here. What do you think?
Or the question about graphics?
Art style. So yes,
Graphics.
graphics. But art styles, technically, they're different. But yes.
I mean, like, if they were to make this with the Breath of the Wild style, because there's just be so much added to it, like, it would just feel so new to me. But, like, I still want to see a game that takes the 2011 tech demo style and just fully. I would love to see a world in that style.
Yes.
Where, like, we saw inside a church or, you know, a temple or something.
Church.
I would love to see like a whole world. Like, and I can only imagine how a game would look with that engine. You know, obviously improved a little bit because 2011, right? But like with the physics engine from Breath of the Wild and the grass. You know, like I would love to see that style.
Yeah, for sure. And I just messed up
Twilight
all the
Princess
music.
does not count.
Twilight Princess doesn't count for anything. Let's be honest here. Twilight Princess is just no. But Breath of the Wild style would be great. What do you think, Will?
I had something I was gonna say there, but I was gonna say Hyrule Warriors, since that game looks fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few games we see literally every version of Link in, and they all look great. And I think that is like the perfect balance there. Maybe they could, I don't know, polish it up a little, but yeah. Like
Well, I think
Toon Link looks great next to Skyward Sword Link and Ocarina of Time Link and all the other Links.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I agree.
Well, you literally like basically you've convinced me to buy Hyrule Warriors.
I was already convinced. That package is such a good deal. Like,
Yeah, but I think about it as like, oh, it's just mindless combat. Like it's just hack and slash.
No, but then you characters and cool stuff. It would be, but then there's Zelda, and I want to freaking play as Toon Link controlling the King of Red Lions. So, like, I mean,
Right.
just who doesn't want to do that?
It does sound pretty epic, yeah.
Like
I
Breath
mean,
of the
like-
Wild Link's there and everything. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great style, but I definitely think there's so much room for like improvement. Like obviously the textures could be better. Like like better textures, like more geometry. Just that style is great, but
I
better.
think the base of the game should be like that, though.
Mm.
Still, like it's a great art direction.
Right.
So I think the art direction should be the same.
I love the Zelda for Hyrule Warriors. Actually, like I think she's great.
Yeah.
She's got great features.
I mean, they can use the same art style and just have a more advanced version of that.
Yeah,
a graphically
absolutely.
intense version of the
Mhm.
same art style. So that could definitely work as well. And I mean, that art style is a little simpler, so it might be a little bit easier to run. So perhaps.
I don't know if it's simpler than the Breath of the Wild style. I think it's just.
It is. There's not
like-
like complex grass and stuff like that, like there is.
But I
in
would want
Breath of the
complex grass. Like I would still like that. I like the Hyrule Warriors art style, but what if they had like complex grass?
Mhm.
I realize that everything I'm saying is just over the top, and like I'm always asking for
No,
more.
obviously,
Yeah.
dude. Like me too.
But this is on the Dream system, right? This is on the
Uh-huh.
Super Nintendo 12-10K like hyper graphics turbo drive switch, right? That's in VR, augmented reality.
I mean, with the way consoles are going, CPUs are just the old CPUs are like, oh, like the CPUs in consoles today, they old as fuck. They just are, and like even just putting in like a budget, like or a mid-tier CPU nowadays would be like a mind-blowing up leap. So maybe we are getting to the point to where this could happen, you know. So that's possible. It's possible, people. It is.
Yeah. Just looking at the cutscenes and stuff, like I think it's one of the best looking games on. Like I would never ever think that was like a Wii U game.
Yeah.
And now it's like on Switch now, and it looks even better.
We're in at 1080p too instead of 720p, so definitely a good upgrade there. So I'm looking for
buying Hyrule Warriors then.
You know, that's the kind of middleman to our MMO ideas, Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah, it has
that next step closer.
There's some elements there that definitely would be Hyrule Warriors like, for sure.
Yeah. Well, anyways, guys, unless you have any big ideas, I think we are done here. Anything else? Any final things you wanted to say, or are we good here?
I can go on forever, so thank you for listening.
Right, okay. I just realized I am a douchebag and do not have your links in the description, so I will get them right now. And they will all be added, everyone, in my Discord and on Twitter and in the link, and put in the description to make up for that, because I'm a total jerk and an asshole. So that's just how that goes. Anyways, guys, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this live stream, make sure to subscribe to me, What About Nintendo, Andres Restart, and Lowellity. Links will be every which way that you can find links in any place to make up for
now.
Except right now. Except literally right now. But right after this, I'll be slapping some links in the description, throwing them in Discord, Twitter. We'll be throwing them into every which way. I'm just an idiot and forgot, because I'm a horrible, horrible friend and a horrible YouTuber. Oh, thank you, Mini Money, for hitting that sub, bud. You're awesome. Make sure to also check out my guest here after I get those links. But anyways, guys, I'll see you guys later on. What About Nintendo? Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
See ya.